Hi, I'm Sian Waters and I'm the co-vice chair of the IUCN Primate Specialist Group section for human-primate interactions. I'm also the founder and director of a conservation project focusing on the Bari macaque in Morocco. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the best practice guidelines for responsible images of non-human primates that were published in January this year. These are my co-authors, and with myself and Felicity, we both have background in zoos as keepers and curators. So I'm interested in the issues of responsible images for primate photos because I've been working on Bari macaque conservation issues since 2004. And the species is endangered, not just through habitat loss, but an important threat is the poaching of infants for the photo problem and pet trade. We estimate that about 200 infant macaques are smuggled into Europe annually to be sold as pets, and the Barbary macaque is in fact the most confiscated mammal in Europe. Apart from the international market, there's also a Moroccan market for the monkeys as photo props and pets. Keeping the species is illegal without an appropriate permit, which you must get from the Department of Forestry. But in Marrakesh, the photo touts there are given a special dispensation to ply their trade because of the importance of tourism for that area. So why do we think the guidelines are necessary? Well, pictures of people with primates can send the wrong messages to the public audiences, and such images make people think that primates aren't threatened and make good pets. The images may be inadvertently misinterpreted across different cultural audiences, and they may make people want their own images close to primates, which is not something that we want to see, particularly if you work with a primate species like the Barbary macaque. But it's not just tourists who are liable to have their photographs taken close to primates. There are other messengers who share primate images, and these are researchers, conservationists, animal caretakers like zookeepers, and people who work in rescue centres, tourist guides and government employees. So I think as people who are concerned with primate conservation and welfare, whatever our role, we have a responsibility to consider the direct and indirect consequences of publishing images of ourselves close to a primate. So here we have a great poster from the Jane Goodall Institute trying to stop the illegal wildlife trade, and there are some messages here to don't post photos of great apes when they're kept as pets, wearing clothing, forming for entertainment, smiling or posed in selfies, interacting with people, which is all great. But at the bottom we have in brackets other than experts. But how do the public know who's an expert and who isn't? Because the photo may be seen by those who don't speak English or French or Spanish or whatever the accompanying text is written in. When posts are shared or go viral, the context is totally lost and posts are often misinterpreted. Individuals keeping primates specifically to exploit them also consider themselves as experts. And cultural differences in any case may mean the photo is completely misinterpreted. So we have to think about how our messages might be perceived. I have an example here, courtesy of Andrea Dempsey, who was working in Zoological Society of London when a white-necked mangabey was born, very endangered species, and the animal had to be hand-reared. So to spread awareness about the work that the zoo was doing, both for endangered species and for this particular mangabey, there was a YouTube channel showing the hand-rearing process. And these are some of the comments that were under the clip. So, you know, cute, I want one too. She's so beautiful, I want a baby monkey so bad, for example. Now, obviously, these comments don't always necessarily translate into an actual purchase, but it wasn't the intended educational message. And this was one of the negative unintended consequences that resulted from the publication of a photograph you can see here of Conchita having a nibble on Andrea's nose. What we perceive as educational with people and primates in close proximity is taken as an opportunity, a commercial opportunity by others who may not have the best interests of primates at heart. So much to Andrea's horror, she came across this post using the photograph to advertise monkeys as pets. And although Andrea is still trying to get this photograph removed, it's proving very, very difficult. And I think that's something we all need to be aware of when we post such photographs. So what are the best practice guidelines? There are 8 practices. Okay, number 1, which is possibly one of the most important, is to make sure you and your organisation have a code of conduct about primate images, which applies to everybody, your staff, your students, your volunteers, and also make sure that your PR or communications teams are informed as well. If you're someone who's well known for your work with primates, there may already be images of you close to primates in the public domain. And if these are used, then offer a different image and explain why your original image is problematic, and also make a statement to explain your position on primate images. Talk about the issues with primate images, particularly to the public. Promote education by explaining the concerns about these types of photographs on websites, in publications, in presentations, and on guided tours. Okay, so 4 to 6. These are the ones that really have the practical application. So try not to post pictures of people inside primate enclosures. Don't publish pictures of primates in caretakers' arms. And really, at this point, there should be no pictures of human-primate contact without personal protective equipment. For those of you who work in the field, when you post a photograph, make sure there's at least 7 meters between people and primate in any publicly shared image. And number 8, for those of us who work with primates in the field or in captivity, make sure the context of any image with primates is clear. Include details that communicate your role, training, and safety precautions taken. So we have 2 examples of photographs here which show the context very clearly of the caretaker's work. So we have somebody giving environmental enrichment to some captive chimps and some veterinarians working on a wild colobus from Colobus Conservation. So these are very, very clear. What I will say to wherever you work with primates in captivity or in the wild, then really think about your message. The success of imparting information about primates does rest on how the message is perceived and not on the messenger's intention. So, for example, the example I would use is the picture you're going to post. Would it be understood without the accompanying text by somebody who doesn't understand English, for example, by somebody in China, by somebody in the Middle East, where there is a huge market for pet primates? We had quite a lot of coverage about the BPGs when they were published. The American Association of Science published them, and so did published about them, and so did the Guardian. And we were also contacted by many young primatologists asking how they could persuade their organisations to develop a code of practice for the publishing of photos on social media and elsewhere, suggesting there is a need for both these guidelines and for organisations to develop such a code. So what's happened since we published the guidelines? Well, the North American Association of Sanctuaries have adopted the BPGs as guides for best practice. The guidelines are fully supported by the European Zoo and Aquaria Primate Taxon Advisory Groups for great apes, small apes, Afro-Eurasian monkeys and large neotropical monkeys. And the National Primate Societies of Central and South America are currently in the process of adopting the BPGs. We've been amazed at the response by volunteers to translate the guidelines, and so far they've been translated into 23 different languages. And almost half of these languages are only spoken in primate range countries. So, for example, Indonesia, Madagascar, the Philippines, Tanzania, Vietnam. We've got an Arabic version coming soon. All these guidelines, all the versions of these guidelines are available for download from our website. So I'd like to thank our supporters, and to Pravin for his graphic, to Kristen Morrow for the infographics, and Andrea Dempsey of West African Primate Conservation Action UK, and Garda for her story about Conchita. I'd also like to thank the Johan Zoo Foundation for their support of my work as Vice Chair of this group. Thank you.